My wife cheated on me with my business partner and left me, then cried and crawled back when he dumped her. My ex-wife Kathy is 38 years old. I am 38 years old. We lived together for 19 years and were married for 16 years. We also have a 14-year-old daughter. But she left it all behind almost 6 months ago and is with my business partner. To be precise, my former business partner, because I found out about the affair. Leon was my former business partner and also my colleague, and we became very good friends, so we decided to quit our jobs and start a company together. For the past 5 years, we have been working together, and for 3 of those years, he has been having an affair with my wife. About 6 months ago, I found out about it because I found some text messages that were on my wife's phone. When I confronted her about it, she didn't even bother denying it. She just accepted it. She told me that she was tired of hiding things like this and that she just wanted to leave. I was very shocked because I had no idea that she was unhappy in our marriage, and I would do anything to make up for that. So when I confronted her, the day she said she was leaving, I even told her that we could still save our marriage, which was very stupid of me, but I was desperate. But she started to get annoyed with me and said that she only married me because she was pregnant and didn't want a loan. For the past 16 years she has tried to love me, but has not succeeded. Now she has found someone she really loves and she doesn't want me to drag her down. She also said that since I had discovered the affair, her secret was also revealed, and I must swallow my pride and let go. I was really sad, especially for our daughter, but she didn't even think twice when she left. She filed for divorce, which was a very simple procedure, and she just wanted to leave. She didn't even ask me to pay any kind of alimony or divorce settlement, and the division of assets was very fair. So we completed the divorce procedure a few months later, because after a while I realized that I could never live with her again after what I had been through. After filing for divorce, I confronted Leon, and he apologized to me and said that he had wanted to tell me about it for a long time, but didn't know how. A few weeks later, he resigned and told me that he and Kathy would be moving away because they didn't want to cause me any more trouble. Kathy had found a great job in Boston, and his cousin lived there so he could work for him instead. Everything had been arranged. He wrote all this in an email and we never contacted each other again. The last time I saw Kathy was 2 months ago, the day we got divorced. Since then, I have not heard from them. My daughter and I have had a hard time, but we have survived. At least I have my business to take care of, which keeps me busy. Because no matter what I want to do, I can give my daughter the future she wants. But about a week ago, Kathy reappeared. I am still a little confused as to whether my daughter and I have done the right thing. So a week ago, around 11 p.m., someone was frantically ringing our doorbell and knocking non-stop. Someone was frantically ringing our doorbell and knocking on it non-stop. At the time, my daughter was already in bed asleep. I was in the office dealing with some work when it happened, so both my daughter and I hurried to the door to check it out. Through the window, we could see it was Kathy. My daughter asked me not to open the door because she had always been very unhappy with her mother because, despite having partial custody, Kathy had never made any effort to keep in touch with our daughter, and the fact that she had cheated on me was also unacceptable to her. The relationship was very bad, but I knew that if Kathy appeared at my doorstep at this time, it must be something important. So I opened the door and let her in. But she just stood in the doorway yelling at me, saying that she would sue me, that she would definitely take the case to court, and that she would definitely get the compensation she deserved, because she could not believe that I would choose to punish her so cruelly. For the first few seconds, I didn't know what she was talking about, and I had to ask her to speak slowly because I was so confused. She was still very angry and said that I didn't need to pretend that I didn't know because she was absolutely sure that I was hiding the truth about Leon from her because I wanted to punish her for her deception. Then she pulled up the sleeve of her shirt and showed me where a band-aid was stuck on her arm. I realized then that Leon must have done something, which also shocked me because we had worked together for several years and he had never lost his cool in front of me. Kathy told me that they had been fighting a lot in the weeks since moving to Boston, and that everything had changed after the move. She realized that it was just because Leon was still trying to adjust to the new life. But even after a month there, he was acting as if everything was Kathy's fault. He kept blaming Kathy for ruining his life because he had to leave the company he had worked so hard to build, and here he had to work with his cousin who kept undermining him. He blames Kathy because she revealed the affair to me before he was ready, and he had to move so far away for her job, so he couldn't fight for the business. They fought every night, and the night before she came to our front door, he got really angry and threw a vase at her. She tried to avoid it, but it hit her in the arm and cut her. So far, he has only verbally abused her, but this time it has gone too far. She left the house that night and took the next flight here to talk to me. She told me that Lion didn't even contact her or apologize after she left. She said she thinks I should be responsible for this because she thinks I knew about his abuse a long time ago and I hid it from her. Because I wanted to punish her, which she found really cruel, as apparently she did me a favor by not fighting for anything during the divorce, and I couldn't even get her back and keep her safe, which was really stupid because, as I said, I worked with Ron for a long time and knew him well, but that was out of professional necessity, and in the workplace he was a completely different person. I never dated him, and I only occasionally met the women he used to date, so I really couldn't know this side of him. So, her accusation that I deliberately hid all this seems completely unreasonable to me, and the way she's acting as if I owe her something really annoys me. I tried to explain to her that I knew nothing about it and that I was really sorry that it happened to her. But ultimately it was her own fault and she can threaten with litigation all she likes. But she knows it wasn't my fault. She just kept arguing with me, insisting that I knew all about it and that she would now make sure to get everything she hadn't got during our divorce. My daughter had been standing in the doorway the whole time and I'd almost forgotten about her because I was so focused on the argument. But when we started going around in circles, she interrupted Kathy and told her to go away. I was a little surprised because I didn't expect her to interrupt, and I don't think even Kathy was caught off guard. But Kathy told her to shut up and stay out of it because she wasn't even old enough to know about it, and told her to go to bed, but my daughter refused. She stayed and said that Kathy had no right to speak to me like that, especially after she put me through so much. She told her that I had been heartbroken for months since I found out about her affair, and that the selfish, heartless monster, had simply gone on with her life. And then she reminded her mother that she hadn't even bothered to visit her daughter or even take the time to stay in touch, because she was too busy with Leon and her new life. My daughter told Kathy that she had failed as a wife and a mother, so she had no right whatsoever to stand there and pretend to be a victim of the situation she had created. My daughter is only 14, but hearing her say those things, I truly realized that she had grown up as a result of the divorce. Kathy was at a loss for words because our daughter's words had shamed her, and then my daughter finally said that since Kathy had left and she was with Leon, she would have to face everything she had been through alone, because we were no longer her family, and she had dug her own grave and could only reap the consequences, because that was what she got for cheating on people. She slammed the door and went back to her room. I could hear Kathy crying outside the door, but I didn't bother to check on her because I didn't think it was necessary. After all, we had just had that discussion. So I went back to bed too, and for the next few days I tried not to think about it, keeping myself busy with work. I was proud of my daughter for standing up for me and not letting me lose face in front of Kathy. Things went relatively well after that visit, but then Kathy showed up again 3 days later, this time with a lawyer and demanding full custody of her daughter. Fortunately, my daughter was out with some friends, so I didn't tell her anything when she came by in the evening. But when she showed up and said that the last time we met, my daughter had spoken to her in that way, she decided that she would no longer allow her to live with me. She told me that the real reason she hadn't tried to keep in touch with my daughter after I discovered the affair was that she didn't want to get involved in a protracted custody battle and make my life even more chaotic. That's why she wanted to leave quietly, without even trying to keep in touch with her daughter, because she knew that I was unhappy about what had happened and that her keeping in touch with her daughter might make things worse. So basically she was trying to tell me that she did everything for my sake, not just because she wanted to leave irresponsibly. I obviously didn't believe any of this, and I told her that I knew the only reason she didn't fight for anything during the divorce, let alone custody of her daughter, was because she wanted to move away as soon as possible and start a new life with Lon, and that it had nothing to do with me, just as she wanted me to think. I really don't need to feel sorry for her, but she says she doesn't care anymore because she now wants full custody of her daughter, and she will get it, because she won't allow me to spoil her daughter's impression of her by filling her head with nonsense and teaching her to disrespect her mother. She claims that when we last met, our daughter was very disrespectful towards her, and instead of reminding her, I encouraged the behavior, so she now knows what to do, and she came back to tell me she is taking the matter to court. I told her to go ahead and shut the door behind her, because I really didn't want to talk to her anymore and waste my time, but now I'm starting to wonder if she has a point. I want to believe I did the right thing, but to be honest, I'm not sure of anything anymore. So, Ida, thank you for not blaming my daughter, even though she was rude to my ex-wife. Update 1. I decided that there was nothing to regret, and that my daughter had done the right thing by standing up for me. These comments made me realize how stupid I was, and she did cheat. I don't think I have to feel sorry for her or anything. Many people even told me that I had to talk to my daughter about this beforehand, because it would be unfair to catch her off guard if Kathy applied for full custody after the last meeting. So I talked to my daughter about it yesterday. I told her everything. I don't want to hide anything from her. She has already proven to me that she is mature enough to handle these things. It makes me a little sad that she has grown up overnight, but at least now I can prepare her for the future. So far, we have not heard from Kathy, but we suspect we will hear from her soon. Our daughter is 14 years old, and in court she is old enough to count. It would be better if we could settle during mediation, but just in case, I made sure that she really wants to be with me, and obviously she does. She told me very clearly that she doesn't want anything to do with Kathy, at least not right now. She told me that in the future she might consider reconnecting with Kathy and reestablishing a relationship with her, but that for now everything was too new, and she obviously blamed her mother for breaking up the family, which I had nothing to say about because technically that was true. I didn't want to be the kind of parent who turns their child against their ex-partner just to get back at them, but in this case I felt there was nothing I could do. I think Kathy did a good job because our daughter really wanted to distance herself from her own mother, and their relationship was very close before the affair came to light, so it was a huge change for them. Obviously, Kathy resented the fact that my daughter took my side, because she kept trying to talk to her. You know, some of you are wondering who actually told our daughter about the affair. So it wasn't me, it was Kathy herself. She even confessed this in an email to her daughter a few days after moving out, without even asking me if I wanted my daughter to know about it. My daughter was very upset when she found out, but she still wanted to speak to her mother once. However, Kathy refused at the time. When I contacted her to tell her that our daughter wanted to talk to her to discuss these things, she said she didn't want to talk to our daughter about it because she was busy with the divorce proceedings and she didn't think it was appropriate to discuss it. She had already said everything she wanted to say in that email, and she had nothing more to add. I tried to convince her to speak to our daughter once because she seemed to have a lot of questions. But Kathy was very firm in her decision and she hasn't spoken to us since. So our daughter's opinion of her has completely changed, and I don't think it's fair for Kathy to blame me for all of this. I've already spoken to my lawyer and we intend to pursue this. A few days ago, Kathy and my lawyer finally served me with notice of full custody, which I immediately contested. I'm meeting with the court-appointed mediator tomorrow, but before that, Leon called me today. I was surprised he called because we have nothing to talk about, but I answered the phone. He told me that he wanted me to return Casey to him. He said that he had been trying to contact her for the past few days, that he knew she must be with me or at least that she had spoken to me, and that he wanted me to tell her where she was. I told him that I didn't know where she lived, but that I had spoken to her in the past few days and that she had come here to fight for custody of her daughter. I didn't do it to help Ron, just to make that clear, but I did it because I thought that if Ron came over and talked to Kathy, maybe he could change her mind and get her to come back. And if he was lucky, maybe he could even convince her to give up her claim to our daughter. So with that in mind, I told him everything, and I added that she was very frustrated because he hadn't contacted her since she left that night, and if he wanted her to come back, he should act quickly. The poor guy didn't even suspect a thing. He had no idea he was being manipulated, so it worked really well for me. I just hope that Kathy still wants to be with him and live with him, and that she might go back with him when he comes. I also told my lawyer about my plan, and he even thinks what I'm doing is the right thing, because even though the scales are already tipped in our favor, it's still possible to save time and energy before settling in court. Update 3. Hey, Kathy and I had our first mediation 2 days ago, and of course it didn't go well. She disagreed with everything we said and claimed it was a waste of time, and then ended the meeting less than half an hour after she left. Leon was waiting for us right outside our house after I picked up my daughter from school. The poor guy looked in a bad way, and I guess he's turned out like this after being with Kathy for a few months. Anyway, I told him he had to go because my daughter and I had just gotten home. We wanted to relax and didn't have time for this kind of drama. I'd already helped him as much as I could. I can't go help this guy who was cheating on my wife, but he really broke down and said that after their last fight, she didn't even bother to respond to any of his texts, and he didn't know where to find her. So I told him that just like last time, I still don't know where she lives, and I can't help him, and he just sat down on the porch steps, put his hands on his head and started crying. That's when I started to get annoyed, because this guy and Kathy had literally ruined my life, and now he had the nerve to ask me to help him find the woman so they could work things out. I told my daughter to go inside so I could deal with this. As soon as she was inside, I told Leon he had to go, because I was completely fed up with both of them. I gave him the contact details of Kathy's parents and told him to go to them if he couldn't get hold of Kathy. But he had to stay away from us now. I told him that he and Casey had ruined my life together. I didn't want to see him around me anymore. He tried to apologize, saying that he really hurt me, but he was in love with her and couldn't help it. I didn't want to hear that, so I said nothing and he left. I'm always so exhausted and confused that I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I really hope and pray that Leon and Casey can work things out for me, if not for themselves, because if they can, they will probably just leave me and my daughter behind and I can finally move on with my life. Right now, I don't even know what's going on or how I'm supposed to feel about anything. Most of the time, I feel numb and just want it to be over. Update 4. Hello. Hello. A few days ago, Kathy terminated our mediation sessions and expressed the wish to take our situation to court, which would not end well for her, as we both know. But I think she only admitted this now. A few hours ago, she came to see me with Leon. I think they should have settled things. I didn't invite them in because my daughter was at home and she wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want to make her feel worse, so I asked them to meet me at a nearby cafe. I asked my mother to come over and look after my daughter, and then I went to the same cafe so that when I got there we could talk things through. Kathy and Leon apologized for everything I'd been through, but I had to tell them again that it didn't matter to me anymore, and I just wanted them to move on and talk about why they'd really called me here. I didn't want to waste time on insincere apologies, and so they didn't beat around the bush either. They told me that they realized they had made a mistake and shouldn't have treated me like that, and that they weren't happy in Boston at all. Kathy really missed our daughter and Leon missed being his own boss. So now Kathy wanted me to agree to let her daughter visit her every weekend or at least every other weekend, because she didn't want to give up her current life. Leon's request was even more extreme. He wanted to come back as a partner and open a branch in Boston. The worst thing was that they wanted me to make a decision within a few days, because Kathy's boss told her that if she wanted to keep her job, she had to come back to work, because she could no longer work from home. So even if I wanted to tell them I would think about it, I had no choice, so I finally told them that I agreed to anything. Leon had already resigned and sold his shares. I was just signing the paper, so I would not rehire him because I didn't trust him at all. Kathy's claim is ridiculous, because our daughter shouldn't have to travel back and forth every 2 weeks just to visit her own mother. She should have thought about that before she moved to Boston. This is completely not my fault. They started arguing with me, saying that they were willing to come to an agreement with me because they really didn't want to fight it out in court. So I told them that their idea that they could get what they wanted in court and win was actually pretty ridiculous, and that the only reason they wanted to bargain with me, face-to-face bargain with me, is because they think they can impress me, but unfortunately I am not weak or stupid enough to believe that. The only reason I will meet with them is because I want to end this and make them shut up, because even they know that if we go to court, they will never win. I told them that the most I could do for Kathy was to talk to our daughter and get her to agree to meet her when Kathy visited, and that I would do nothing else. So they either accepted or gave up, because I didn't want to waste any more time arguing with them. Kathy seemed very desperate, so she readily agreed, and I left. When my daughter is feeling better, I will talk to her about it, but I am not going to force her to do anything she doesn't want to do. So if she decides she doesn't want to see her mother again, that's up to her. I won't try to convince her. Update 5. Hi. A few months have passed since my last update where I mentioned that I won't force my daughter to see her mother if she doesn't want to. I talked to my daughter afterwards and told her what I said to Kathy, and she said she needs time to think about it. So a few months ago, I also said the same thing to Kathy, and we haven't been in touch since. I don't know if she and Leon have resolved their fight or not. I really don't care, but as far as I know, they're still together and living in Boston. I wish them luck. I guess the good thing is that they're not bothering me anymore, so now I can finally try to move on with my life, which is exactly what I'm doing. The best revenge is to live a good life, so I'm focusing on my work and teaching my daughter to be a kind person, which she is in complete contrast to her mother. Basically, I hope I can succeed in doing this.